So tonight we're really lucky to have Alfred give us a talk again that he gave this year at South by Southwest on a topic that probably deserves a lot more attention than it gets, UX for devices. And I think, he probably doesn't need introduction because we sold out on his name alone, but Alfred's been a designer for over 10 years. He's the Chief Design Officer of Sear Labs and working on some very interesting products that I don't think they're talking about yet. So he spent time also working at Jawbone on the design team there, and I guess you can read his full background on the Meetup site. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to him and put your hands together.
Cool. Well, first of all, thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Design Map. Thank you, O'Reilly, and thank you, Adam, for opening the show for us. Good evening. It's really great to be back speaking at my own meetup in the San Francisco Internet of Things meetup. So, for some of you whom I have not met, whom I have not gotten a chance to meet you, my name is Alfred. I'm a digital service and connected product designer. I'm currently the chief, like Adam said, I'm currently the chief design officer for a new startup in San Francisco called Sear Labs, and we're working on a wearable device that we hope we can tell you very soon about what we're working on. So actually this talk came up this idea came out about 8 months ago when I was preparing for South by Southwest. And I was brainstorming a topic that what I think would be relevant for, particularly for designers, and a lot of you are definitely in the crowd, and definitely the crowd of people that I want to talk to, about how I transitioned from a digital designer into a connected product designer during the past 4 years, and what I've learned, what I've seen, and most importantly, what I've heard and learned from this crowd. So I want to come back and share it with you. So I started designing user experience about 10 years ago when I was at Motorola. I started in 2004, and I stayed there for about a good 5 years. And one thing that I joked a lot about with my friends and family is that for 5 years I learned how to draw rectangles very, very quickly and very, very neatly. And to the point that at the end of the 5 years it was like instinct. I just know how to draw very efficiently fit lots of information and user experience into these very neatly shaped rectangles. In 2010, there was a turning point in my career. I left Motorola and flew all the way to London to join what I believe at that time is an emerging field. I joined a company called Fjord, and we have a few designers here from Fjord. And Fjord is specialized in digital surfaces. And on the first day, kind of reflecting back, it's quite interesting. On the first day, I saw this very strange device sitting on my desk. And some of you may know this device. It's called a Navistag. Basically, it's a connected toy that speaks to you and makes a sound when you get a message, when there's a weather update. And for a long time, actually, I couldn't quite figure out what it does and what it is. So actually, never quite pay attention to it, even though, as you can see, it is literally within my arm's reach. But I think, looking back, the most important reason why I never actually paid any attention to this object is because of this. It's not a rectangle. It is nothing that I can design for. It's something that is just have light and buttons on it. Even though it's within my arm reach, and looking back, it's one of the earliest products in Internet of Things. So, but fast forward 4 years, these non-rectangle things have started to, ironically, multiply like rabbits. We have now started to see these devices of different shapes and sizes and entering this market. And user experience designers are spending more and more and more time designing user experiences for these objects. So these devices is also, more importantly, starting to scatter onto our body and with the environment. and effectively they are becoming the computer. So what I have, along with many of you have witnessed, is of course this emerging as a beginning of what is now called the Internet of Things. So what is happening? So why is all these devices now all of a sudden entering the market? And more importantly, for designers, like a lot of you here, who have been designing on the digital side, how should we start to make sense of this new world? And these are the center questions that the reason why I wanted to put this talk together, because I want to shed some light on it and also start spreading some awareness about what designers and product managers and entrepreneurs and engineers and data scientists should really start thinking about this new industry. So no talk about the developing topic is complete without a definition. So what is the Internet of Things? In essence, the Internet of Things is the physical extension of the Internet that we've been working and building for the past 2 decades. The Internet of Things are made up of objects that are identifiable, interoperable, and they are connected to surfaces. And why is the Internet of Things happening? Why now? And what actually led up to this new phenomenon? I think there are actually three factors that actually led up to it. First of all, as all of you are aware, CPUs are becoming smaller, more power efficient, and they're becoming a lot cheaper. And also, mobile data is becoming more and more prevalent, and mobile data is covering more and reliably covering most of the developed areas that we live in. And third, and perhaps the most important part, is the fact that the open cloud services and APIs provide content for these things to connect to, and that these three things completes the circle. And what is happening now is that these three things has enabled these smart devices, these small dedicated computers, to be embedded into places and on the bodies, both viably, reliably, and economically, not just for companies, but for individuals, like hobbyists, like a lot of us who just want to tinker and play with Raspberry Pi, play with Arduino. Those three things now enables a lot of people doing it all together. So in 2008, some interesting statistics. In 2008, the number of sensors, meaning not just mobile phones, not just tablets, but sensors that track your packages, sensor networks that tracks the health of cattle, has surpassed the number of human beings. So since 2008, there are more connected things on this earth than human beings. And in 2015, based on a recent study, actually as research from Cisco, so a year from now, they're expecting that number to reach 25 billion, doubling from 2012. But the key point is not the number of devices. A lot of the people tout these numbers around 7 billion, market size, 25 billion devices. The key is not actually the number of devices. The key, especially for designers, it's how these dedicated little computers in our environment can be mixed and matched and strung together to create new solutions that is meaningful, always on, and personalized. That's where design is pushing forward in this new era. So now the next natural question is, which is at the center of this, is what does it mean for designers? To be honest, like a lot of you and in the conversation that we've been having, it's actually quite confusing to design for connected products right now. The reason why it's so confusing because there is no established platform. There's no guideline that you can pick up and follow. There's no template for designers to start getting into this space and learn and follow. But within all these chaos, I believe there's some order. And there are 4 things in the past year of running this meetup, and also for the 3 previous years when I was entering this field, I've seen this coming over and over and over again. So those are the 4 things that I want to start. I want to share with you and at least start a conversation within this group and with designers to start investigating how to enter this field. First, I want to talk about attention. In 1990, if you hear this sound, what does it mean? It means someone is about to go online. More specifically, one person in your house is about to spend a few hours online. He may be replying emails, he may be in a chat session, an internet relay chat, or he may be like me, downloading a pirated game from a BBS. But in 2014, today, this is what you hear when someone is about to go online. Different sound, but more importantly, what is different is that this person is no longer going to spend a few hours online. That person may at most spend 1 to 2 minutes online. And during that period of time, he will switch tasks between replying an email, replying to a text message, checking some likes in his Facebook page. And what it means is that the amount of attention that people are getting staying online is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Recently, in my new company, we did a research study, and we found that just regular common folks, they get about 80 of these on any given day. So just think about, putting that into context, as we see these more and more and more of these devices start to multiply on us, start to multiply in our environment, how would that really affect people's attention? So what does it really mean? And here's, I think, is the reality that we're approaching. Designers for the past, I would say reliably for a past decade and a half, has been designed for the foreground. We assume that the people who sit in front of our whatever we are designing, the rectangle that we've been designing, have 100% of your attention. You are there, you're doing what you need to do, and we optimize the design towards it. But as we approach the age of Internet of Things, when all these devices start to multiply in the environment, pardon the pun, this paradigm will no longer compute. As the number of devices multiply, the amount of attention that we have stay pretty much the same, and in fact, it will get smaller and smaller and smaller. So what can we do to avoid fatigues when we have all these signals coming into people's attention? I think in order to kind of look forward, I think we need to look backwards a little bit. So let's break down how we've been approaching design in this form. So I think we have been designing, the primary way we get users' attention is by two methods today, push and pull. When we believe I don't have your attention as a user, what we would do, we will push. I'll push something to you. A notification, they call it push notification because exactly what it is. I know that your attention is somewhere else. I push something to you to hook you in. Another good example is ticker tapes that scrolls across the TV screen. It's something that interrupts you to get your attention. The second strategy, which is also very common, is pull. When I assume you have 100% of your attention, what I would do is to pull you. I will keep feeding information to you, to keep wheeling you into this user experience, keep wheeling you into this surface. Think about the last time you scroll on Pinterest and then it refreshes. It's feeding you something to pull you. YouTube is another good example. But when we have design embedded into the environments, new options start to open up. And there are actually two of them. First, you can start to deliver glanceable but complete information into the people's ambience. But you deliver it in a way such that you don't demand a lot of attention. In a way, you almost get around what everybody has been doing by demanding your attention. I give you information that you can get without spending too much time onto the device. And I'll give you an example of what that means. And the second thing that you can do is to scale. If you can detect the presence because of all the sensors now built into the devices, I think one of the person who were telling us what they were doing, they were working with proximity sensors. And once you can start detect what the user is doing in the environment, and whether the user is expressing interest in what you design, you can actually start to scale the information depending on how much engagement is demonstrating with your design. Two of my favorite examples in this two approach come from the same company called Ambient Device. Have any of you heard of this company? They were based in Boston. They have been around since the late 90s, early 2000s. They've done some pretty groundbreaking work. The first example in the U.S. is this, called the energy jewel. In the United States, the electricity price fluctuates. If there's a busy period, a lot of people are using electricity, the electricity actually costs more. So this device called the energy jewel will tell you how much energy currently costs. There's a display on the screen on the right-hand side. That by itself is kind of cool. Wirelessly, it can tell you how much electricity costs right now, right here and now. But what makes it even more elegant is the light at the back. When the electricity price reaches a peak, the light will turn red. What it does is, these two things together blend this very important piece of information into your environment. And you don't actually need to pay a lot of attention into it. You can be, when it turns red, you can be making your breakfast, and you still get exactly what you want to know. And if you want to learn more, you just walk over to the device and read what it actually means to you. And that is the kind of what I call high informational value to attention ratio solutions that I think is really coming into the user experience field when you have all these devices today as all the momentum that all the designers have been building up on designing for the foreground. Now it's starting to come out to the halt that I cannot take this anymore. All these blinking lights, all these feeds, all these streams, all these sounds, I cannot pay attention to all this. And this is completely coming on the other side, blending you into the environment, giving you complete information, but without asking you for a lot. To give you an even more tangible example of what the possibility of information can do, check out this concept by David Rose. And this deck is already online. I'll send a link out to you guys after the talk. Check out what David Rose did in the LIFT conference in Geneva, I believe, in 2009. He showed off this concept device, and these are the three screens. And on the left-hand side is the screen that you would see the most when the device is in your home. It shows the temperature in large number and some very basic ambient animation about the weather. But what's interesting is this device has a proximity sensor built inside. So if you walk close to this piece of information, the screen will actually refresh to tell you the weather of the last 2 days forecast. If you walk even closer and tap on the screen, it will tell you the 5 days forecast. So this is, I think, is a great embodiment of what I think the power of scaling user attention can be. Complete ambient information, but if you want to engage, it gives you more. But if you don't, it just basically very elegantly blend into the environment. So also, if you, especially for interaction designers, if you peel down even one layer down, you notice that the need to navigate has completely disappeared. I no longer need to tap like 3 tabs of today's weather, 2 days forecast, 5 days forecast. My expression, my presence in the environment help me navigate. So the big takeaway is that attention is already rare today, and it will become even more rare as we see all these devices coming into people's environment. And to be smart about this trend, we need to start thinking about what kind of information we can actually inject into people's environment, because not only we can be in multiple places, we can be always on. It's a paradigm shift of how we have been designing information, but I believe it's a trend that we need to start adopting. And also, if you can tell how engaged the user is, you can actually scale your user experience based on that piece of information, which will become very critical. Next, I actually want to talk a little bit about how designers should work with data in IoT products. And I've heard a few of you who work with data and connected products. It's not, I wouldn't say 100% of the IoT products out there will collect data. In home automation, and a few of you work in that field, a lot is about remote control. I'm here, I want to turn off that light. Those are, I think, some exceptions in this field, but a lot of the product out there in Internet of Things is going to connect with data. So I think it's a relevant topic for us to touch on. So last June, I don't know whether there's any of you in the crowd. Last June, I backed this Kickstarter project called Smart Citizen Monitor. This $100 device, and I need to actually read my notes, it tracks temperature, humidity, light level, noise level, CO2 level, nitrogen level in the air, and the number of Wi-Fi networks in your proximity. In the other words, this thing listens a lot, but it does nothing. I'm now amongst hundreds of backers around the world trying to figure out what we can do with this little data generating machine. There's an important insight in this anecdote, and I think it's an important one to share, because knowing this is going to actually save you a lot of time and a lot of money. Data without interpretation is quantified noise. A lot of you wear wearable devices. If I just tell you how your steps are in the past 30 days, you will look at me and I will look at you and go, okay, what can I do with it? A lot of these devices I think is approaching this point where people think collecting data is good and it's great, but without interpretation, consumers as end users of these devices actually cannot do anything with what you produce. And that is true for all IoT products that collect data. Another example about designing with data. I have a withing scale, was Wi-Fi scale, or smart body analyzer, as their marketing team likes to call it. It measures my weight, my BMI, and my heart rates, which all of it relates to my body. But curiously, it also, every 10 minutes, it captures the temperature and the CO2 level in my room. I've been having this, it's about 6 months in since I bought this device. And I was quite curious about why do you collect CO2 in my room? So I went online actually, and within my profile, behind a very small question mark icon, it says that it tells me that high level of CO2 can actually deteriorate my sleep and causes headache and so on and so forth. I don't know about you, but I get headaches when I'm ill and when I'm stressed. And even when I do get headache, I would not think about going to my bedroom scale to try out whether the CO2 level is too high. So I think what the insight here is that without a clear connection between data and your product story, overlaying more data into your product actually makes your product story weaker and more confusing. Today, also, the last thing that I want to touch on is today when I talk to designers about designing for data, the conversation automatically, like 5 minutes in, it leans on the data visualization. Data visualization is great, but data visualization is a mean, not an end. If you want a product to be useful, data visualization wouldn't give you that. Data visualization will make it a very nice package, make it a very nice skin, but in order to integrate data into your product, you actually need to do something. You need to go one step beyond and do something a little bit deeper. The reality is that no one wakes up one day, and I can say that in pretty good confidence, no one wakes up one day and looking for data for their own sake. Most of us is actually, most of the successful solutions out there consistently being able to achieve these two things when they integrate data into the products. They let the consumers to make sense of the data that they collect, going back to the interpretation. But two, it connects, uses data to tell a story that connects to the product. It is with these two things that designers should think about working with data into the IoT products. Because ultimately, those products combine the meaning with data, with a human experience, and it is within this very small or overlapping orange areas that provide value to data. That is the value of data in IoT products, is to ultimately provide you an insight into the past, what you've been doing, and foresight into the future, what I need to do in order to be better at whatever is the reason why I buy this product. And taking this approach, and you can think of it as speaking to the left brain and also speaking to the right brain. You're being both rational but also emotional. It is with these two that makes data meaningful in connected products. So, like Adam introduced in the introduction, I worked at Jawbone, and when I tell people that I worked at Jawbone, a lot of people walk up to me and tell me how much they like the app and appreciate the app, and how much they think the app is better than what's out there. And similarly, you see the similar things in reviews as well. But if you compare Jawbone Up app with a competitor app like Fitbit, you almost see these, like what I just told you, mapping to the framework point by point. In the Jawbone app, the number of steps is not just a number of steps. It's translated into progress. It's translated into whether you're hitting 100%. Jawbone Up is about helping you live better, so you can record your emotions based on your progress that day. And Jawbone app translate your patterns and give you these little insight cards to tell you what you've been doing and what you need to do and what we recommend you to do for the future. So, the big takeaway here is that just being able to collect data in your product is not enough. In order to be useful, you need to give data a purpose. And in order to integrate data successfully into your product, you need to first, at the very, very least, help people make sense, do the interpretation, and two, understand what your product story is, and bring that data, use data to support it into a human experience. Ultimately, no one looks for data. What people want in the connected product is to know who I am and what my better self would be in the future. So the third area is also something that's come up a lot, and it's one of the reasons why I joined Fjord back in 2010. But Fjord is a consultancy that is specialized in digital services, but even amongst designers who have been working on designing services and in service design consultancy, we still from time to time debate a lot about what is service design and what does it mean. So I want to shed some light on this and also bring up why I think IoT product design has a deep connection into service design. So this is the Wikipedia definition of service design. As usual, it's long, generic, and cryptic, but the boldface part is the important bit. Different from other design disciplines, service design is about orchestration. It's not about optimization. It's really about taking different pieces and figure out how they can be optimized when they are run together. Why does service design matter for Internet of Things? I think the reality is that for every single IoT product company out there who are making any IoT product, they will inevitably they will need service design. And if you're a designer, if you are working on a connected product, you will, at some point and some period during that time, you will be doing service design. And here's an example. Most of you have seen this. I don't need to explain this to you. This is the Nike Fuel Band. It costs $140. But most of you have not seen the device on the right. The device on the right is a $5 pedometer that you can buy from Daiso in a discount store in San Francisco. Both of you tell you essentially the same thing. They tell you how active you are that day. Neither of them tracks your sleep. Neither of them tracks your food. But the Nike Fuel Band costs 29 times more. Well, you can argue, well, if this costs 29 times more, why do people pay for it? Well, definitely they don't pay for the fact that it tells you the same information. It doesn't even, people pay for that because it's a better looking piece of hardware. What they're paying for, the 29 times margin that they're paying for, is the fact that Nike has taken the very ambiguous goal of living a more active life and breaking it down into a surface that is real time, that is social, and is also something that is measurable. That is the value in the Nike FieldBand, and that is what people actually pay for. And what Nike FieldBand is actually a multi-touch point surface, just as an avatar of that surface that fits onto your wrist. And you see that pattern repeat over and over and over again in all the successful connected product out there. A Nest thermostat is not just a thermostat. A Nest thermostat is actually a energy management system for your home. It helps you increase your efficiency in the energy that you spend in your home. A tile, which is the second device in the middle, is not just a Bluetooth transmitter. If you stick something onto your tile and you declare, and you lost it in your house, you can use your app to find it. And if you actually declare lost, I really don't know where it is, and then on your app you mark it as lost. All the tiles that is already deployed around the world, we actually collectively try to look for your belonging, try to look for that little tag. So tile is actually a global lost and found surface. And the August smart lock is not just allows you to use a smartphone and get it as a key. It actually is a surface that allows you to manage, to grant access to who can get into your house and when. So therefore, if you are designing an IoT product, you will be designing a surface. Your next question is probably this. Is user experience design and service design more or less the same thing, or just like UI design to UX design, now UX design to service design? Actually, no. Service design and experience designers will often work together, but those are very different disciplines. For those who work in UX design, you're probably very familiar with it. For example, if I asked you to design a mobile app for a bank, you'll probably create an artifact like this. This is a company called a task flow. You would take the perspective of a single person, the user. You will identify a task that he or she would do a lot, and then you optimize your design to enable that. And more likely than not, you will focus on very singular touch point, and in this case, a mobile app. But if you're a service designer, and you're designing a mobile banking surface, you'll create a lot of, you more likely than not will create something like this. This is called a journey map. You will take on different perspective, not just the end user at the very top. You will actually take on additional perspectives like the call center that will be handling some of the complaints, and you may even take on the perspective of a supervisor who need to handle these escalations. The touch points, more often than not, and almost guaranteed, there's multiple. And also, you're not optimizing for the task, but what you're optimizing is actually the orchestrations of the tasks that each of the teams and each of the touch points need to perform. That's service design. So the big takeaway is that IoT products are not just hardware pieces for their own sake. They're actually avatars of a surface that you designers need to design, but it manifests itself into a physical form. And the value of IoT really is in the surface, and you can see this over and over again. It's disproportionately on the surface side. So the last area that I also find it very interesting, I want to touch on it, is probably of the 4 areas, this is the earliest, but I want to touch on it because I think a lot of new opportunities is going to open up, and it is about how we can customize user experience using our identity. So why design for identity? Well, in reality, no one likes to remember passwords. I have not yet in my entire life run into a person who likes to remember the password. In fact, today we tolerate it. Services like Google Login and Facebook Login allow us to, in effect, port using that as a proxy to, in a very easy way, to port our context and our preferences across different devices. But in the future, as we have all these devices learning about us, being on our body, being in our environment, those devices, the data collected from them, and also our biometrics will become a way to getting into the in-road of customization of the experience. In 2008, a new kind of cigarette vending machine was deployed in Japan. Has any of you seen this or use it? Okay. So in 2008, it's actually not a recent example. It's been around for a while. They deployed this kind of cigarette vending machine. So it looks just like, feels like, smells like a cigarette vending machine. But what's different is that once you just put in the money, there's a button. And you need to press it for 2 seconds. And then you release it. During that 2 seconds, the vending machine takes a photo of your face. And then it analyzes the bone structure and the wrinkle patterns on your face to determine whether you are minor. If it thinks that you are minor, it doesn't dispense cigarette to you, it just returns you the money. Your identity is used to solve a very common problem in a service. Even a very recent example, some of you may have gotten the chance to use this. This is the Disney Magic Band. They deployed it last year. It's one of the largest and most comprehensive RFID customization solution out there, and they deployed it in 2013. When you book a reservation in a Disney resort, you can opt into this program, and if you opt in, you get bands that's on the upper, similar to the one on the upper left-hand side, and inside, like most of the avatars that I just told you about, it's just an RFID chip inside. And as you plan your trip online, your itinerary and your identity is linked to that band. Once you arrive at the resort, what it allows you to do is you can walk up to a hotel room and unlock the door using the band. You can check into rides that you have reserved, and you can make payments using this band. Well, that by itself is kind of cool, but what they're actually working on is something even more amazing. Because just by knowing this piece of information, who you are, where you're roaming around, what they're working on is to enable Disney characters to know the name of the kid as the kid approaches. Just think about it. You're no longer a visitor in the park. The park actually knows you as a child. Just think about how they would change the dynamics and the experience that the child, and the memories that the child will have in the resort. As a group, when you walk into the restaurant, you will actually know who is celebrating his birthday. You don't need to ask. You just sit down. And going one step further, and I think I'm reading this on the plans that they are actually starting to make public, they want to actually go as far as knowing whether you have taken a ride before as you go through a ride, and to change the experience just a little bit from what's different from what you've done last time. So the next question, there's an elephant in the room that I think some of you are probably wondering. What about privacy? What about this thing of things always listening to me and knowing where I am? Well, first of all, I'm not a lawyer. I don't look like a lawyer. I don't play it on TV. So I cannot give you legal advice. But I think as a designer, as somebody who takes on the human angle into everyday problems, if we think about privacy and make design decisions about privacy, I think we're going about it the wrong way. This is how I look at privacy. When it comes to surfaces, I think of privacy as one side of the balance. On the other side of the balance is actually the value of your surface, whether people see the need of giving you the information about me, and also the transparency of how you handle my data, where you store the data, and what you're willing to do, being transparent of what you're planning to do when things go wrong. It is when this balance these two things don't equate the other side, people start thinking about privacy as a way to reach for safety. So privacy is not the only thing that people worry about, and in fact, I would think that if privacy is such a big factor, Facebook would not have been so successful. And a lot of us would stop using credit cards a long time ago because we all know what credit card companies use with our data. In my opinion, privacy is something that we need to definitely be aware of, but it's not something that we should wrap and design a service around. Because at the end of the day, consumers, when they download an app, when they look at the agreement, no one reads it. What they want is to know what kind of value you can return to them. When those two things are not clear, that's when they start to abandon services. So just to recap on this, like designing for identity is going to open many new exciting areas and opportunities for designers. And just think about the ability to design an Amazon-like shopping experience in retail stores. How amazing it's going to be for everyday consumers. I also think that when it comes to privacy is not a single variable. It's actually an equation. It's a balance. In order for you to be successful, to deliver a meaningful service, privacy is not the only thing that you need to be thinking about. What you really need to think about is communicate why you are asking people for the information and be transparent about how you handle the information and what you're willing to do when things go wrong. So I'm very excited to be working on IoT products, and I hope I get a chance to shed some light on some of what I think are relevant areas in this field. There's a few parting thoughts that I want to share with you as we're approaching the end of the talk. I really believe we are now crossing into the fourth era of information access. If you think about the mainframe era, if you think about the PC/internet era, if you think about the mobile era, and now where we are, every time we cross these boundaries, user experience design goes through fundamental shifts. And I think as we move into this new area, there'll be many new blue ocean opportunities open for new businesses and entrepreneurs that amongst some of you, and also for new exciting products and projects that designers can design for. But as we go bravely explore these new territories, there are a few things that I just want to at least propose and have us keep in mind that I think is important. First, as we go create these products, if we think working with these non-rectangular objects and things are confusing, think about everyday consumers. Think about how these strange objects entering the environment, how will it be like? I think designers, we owe it to ourselves, and also for the users that we design for, we need to create a new sense of normalcy for them. We need to go create something that's not only beautiful, but also meaningful and fit with what they already have. Because essentially we are asking them to invite new things into the environment and onto the body as many times. Second part, I think is related, and I want to show you an example. It is important for us to, as we create these products, look at what people do, what services that people already use, and create things to improve what they already do. Not to create things and hope that they will find a use for it and they can ultimately go out and find some problem to solve. Do you remember the company, the rabbit that I showed you at the beginning of the presentation? The same company released a product in last year, 2013. It's called the Mother. The kit comes with the console, and this is the mother. And then it comes with a bunch of sensors, and they call them cookies. Now, this is what I would think of a solution that is not targeted. It is not really complete. And it is also a product that creates a very strange artifacts into people's environment. And if you think that, well, I don't need a new mother, what actually gets better? In the website, this is one of the sample use cases. So one of the sample use cases was to bug your child's toothbrush. So, and the claim is that if you have fun, my son will learn to brush his teeth better. In my opinion, and just as an observer of everyday life, I think childs who don't want to brush their teeth probably won't pick up the toothbrush in the first place. I will argue that they don't actually need an IoT product, they need better parenting. And they may actually need to learn the long-term benefits of oral hygiene, not to use how to use a bug toothbrush. And lastly, and that's my very personal opinion, like don't stop at making concept videos. Every time I see a concept video without following through of actually going out and creating a product, creating a prototype, and go and then test it and put it in front of people and use it, my eye just glazes over. Don't get me wrong, I love those gorgeously produced concept videos, but I think what I find a little bit discouraging is that a lot of times they become not a waypoint, but become a destination for designers. They create a concept video and they stop. From my experience working in this field and also talking to a lot of you, I truly believe user experience design is leaving the rectangular screens. And in order to really push this discipline forward, I really think that designers can no longer learn the future from the desks. So please go out, learn Arduino, learn D3, make friends with an industrial designer, make friends with an electrical engineer, and continue to learn and share what you have learned with the community and the people next to you. Trust me, when you actually see your product and you can feel it in your hand, not just in the video, you can actually feel it in your hand, and you see live data flowing through it, your view on the world will become richer and your product will become better. Thank you so much for your time.